Well, how did you balance, because now bodybuilding, you're full time, it's what you do, but how did you balance it back in college or when you were just in even high school? Like how did you, I know you wrestled then, but like how did you balance?
I it's priorities, man. Priorities, right? So like, I had to work and make money. I had to go to school, and I started my bodybuilding career. That first year I competed, I was, like I said, going to school, working, and I won junior nationals. So, being my first prep,
Yeah.
um, it's just it's heart, man. It's heart and prioritizing your responsibilities. And for me, when I said I want to be a bodybuilder, I committed to that as if I were going to college to be a bodybuilder. Now, I was going to college to get my degree, which I got in business, but I didn't have passion for it. I didn't have a real love for it. Like, I didn't want to wake up every day and put on a suit and tie. I wanted to wake up every day and go to the gym.
Yeah.
So uh, I knew that I was gonna have to put a lot of sweat equity into this. A lot of money too. Don't get me wrong, man. Like, I was scraping up every dollar and penny that I had. Even calling my mother at one point saying, "Hey, can I have $20 for chicken this week?"
Yeah.
So when I say like I had nothing and worked and went to school and grinded for the first few years of my bodybuilding journey, I mean it, man. Like,
Yeah.
I looked at it as if this was an investment for the next few years until I got to the point where I got my first break. Whether that would be when I turned pro, or maybe after I turned pro, or maybe just before I turned pro. Thankfully for me, I'll tell you, when I got my first break was when the first 2 years I did junior nationals. I won both years. The second year I won the overall. The third year I competed, in 2017, I went straight to the USAs. And I knew I wasn't going to do the junior nationals, and I loved that show so much.
Mm.
It was one of the coolest shows I'd ever done at that time. And I don't know, I just had so many memories from that third year of competing. Knowing I wasn't going to be there that year, it tore me up.
Yeah.
I was like, man, I really love that show. I want to be there. And so last minute, I drove up. I drove from Indiana up to Chicago when it used to be up there, and just to attend. On my own dime, I called off work and I said, hey, I'm going to go up to this show. And I did. I drove up there, and that's where I met Ed Connors. And Ed
Oh, really?
Connors, yeah, Ed Connors is a very influential person in the bodybuilding world. He's gotten, first of all, he was one of the people who franchised Gold's Gym, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But also he has helped a lot of bodybuilders get their first contracts and get on the scene. So the reason I tell this story is because, one, it's a part of my journey, but two, it just goes to show, like, when you're at these events, whether it's like at an expo, like, for example, when I met Hani at the booth and I said, hey, can you make me the next Phil Heath? What a cool story that is, right?
Yeah.
It comes full circle. But, like, you just never know, showing up to these events, who you can meet and what can happen.
Yeah.
So, like, out of nowhere, I just had this tug. I was like, Derek, go to junior nationals. Said, okay. So I went, boom. And I went, I met Ed Connors, and he sent some emails to a couple different supplement companies saying, hey, this young kid's got some serious potential. I think you should sign him. He's going to be something. And thank God for that, because I got my first supplement contract, and I was able to actually quit my job and be a full-time bodybuilder.
And how old were you when that happened?
2017, and I had just turned 24.
Just turned 24.
24.
So how old were you when you started bodybuilding?
I had just turned 22 when I did my first competition.
So you balanced
Yeah.
work and bodybuilding from like 21, 22, like,
Because I was a wrestler in the beginning of my college days.
so you kind of always balanced it.
Yeah, you like having my wrestling background definitely helped balance like other sports with school.
Yeah.
But truthfully, man, I just never really loved school. I just did it because it was like one of those things where like there's some things in life that you just like aren't fun, and you got to put it. Yeah, you got to do it. It's like there's some work that just has to be done, and it's not fun, but you got to do it anyway.
Yeah.
And that's how I felt about school. I just didn't have a passion for it, but I had a passion for being in the gym. I loved bodybuilding, and I felt really deeply in my heart that I could do something and make a career out of bodybuilding.
And look, that's what you did.
I did, but you got to think, bro. I was 150 pounds whenever I said I want to be a bodybuilder. I mean, maybe I was less. I don't know, but somewhere about 150 pounds is. I said, and that wasn't even conditioned. That was like me, like just walking around 150 pounds.
Yeah.
You know, that was like off-season wrestling where I was like cutting down to 130, 141. Right?
Yeah.
And so like this is off-season wrestling, 150 some pounds.
So then basically 2 years later.
Yeah, like a couple years later.
You signed your first contract.
Well, okay, so when I said I want to be a bodybuilder, that was 2014.
Oh, okay.
That was like spring, summer of 2014.
It's like 3 years.
So then I gave myself 1 full year to figure out how to diet and train like a bodybuilder.
How did you learn? Like, did you have a coach?
The first year in the off season, I didn't. I YouTube like Jay Cutler chest workout or Phil Heath like back workout or like whatever, Ronnie Coleman, whatever. So I would just like watch their videos and I would just go to the gym and do their workouts. So that's why we put out a ton of workout videos. It's because I know for myself, like that's how I got my start. That's how I learned how to train like a bodybuilder, was by watching the people that were doing it and the best at it at the time. So that's how I learned how to train. And then I did get some help from some local friends and people as far as my diet. And then I got my first coach, who was like a local coach and a friend of mine, and he helped me out for the first few years competing. And so very thankful for him helping me out, because you know I didn't know what I was really doing, to be quite honest with you. And so I just learned from the people around me. I did Google searches, I YouTube search, and that's how I got my start. And but no, like I gave myself 1 full year from the time I committed, okay, I'm gonna be a bodybuilder, to my first show. And then after my first show, 2 years later is whenever I got my first supplement contract, and then I turned pro. And then that same year that I got my contract and turned pro, I won my pro debut and went to the Olympia and placed top 5.
That's crazy.
Pretty fast. Pretty fast. But then, over the next couple years, I definitely got humbled too, which is a blessing now in hindsight. That it's great to have success, but it needs to be at the right time. Like you definitely need, like, if you have success premature, or if an opportunity comes and you're not ready, then it can really take you down a path in life that isn't best for you. And that's why I say, like, it's not, people say like, God, like, why didn't you give this to me? Why are you keeping me from this? You don't want to bless me? No, that's not true. God blesses us and can't wait to bless us. He loves us and wants the best for us. But he knows hey son, if I bless you with this and you're not ready, because he knows if we're ready. We always think we're ready.
Yeah, of course.
We always feel we're ready.
I'm ready.
I'm ready. I'm mature. I'm ready for this.
I know everything.
But he knows. He ultimately knows. And for me, he kept me from what I felt like I could have had. I don't want to say should have had, but I think I definitely could have been Mr. Olympia in the 212, like the 212 Olympia champion, much sooner than 2021 had I done things better. But I didn't, and I placed second, and I was really upset about it. But I now know in hindsight, like, he was protecting me, because if I would have gotten that prematurely, it would have taken me down a path in life that I don't want to know. So being humbled, it sucks in the moment.
Definitely.
It's terrible. But that's why he says humble yourself, so he doesn't have to humble you.
Yeah.
Right? And so thankfully, I experienced that at that time of my life, because now being Mr. Olympia, I'm like, I check myself every day. I literally, the day I woke up from, the next day I woke up from the show, from winning, I literally thought to myself, what is this going to make of me? Like, am I going to get ahead of myself, or am I going to always be his?
Yeah.
And I just, that's what I did. I laid there, I prayed, God, I'm yours. I'm yours. And I pray every day, like, that I'm nothing more than a vessel for him.
Yeah.
I don't want the selfishness, the worldliness to take over me. And there's times that it does. I don't want to sit here and pretend like I'm not a sinner, or I'm not, a human being. I am. I totally am. But I have those same temptations that everybody else has, and I fight it just like everybody else does, and I lean on him. I'm like, God, I'm all yours. I want to be nothing more than a vessel for you. And so
and like a big reason for that is because, would you say, in the earlier years when you did things differently, you saw where that led you,
yes,
and you don't want that feeling again?
Never.
So it's like,
I don't wish that on my worst enemy, because that was such a miserable life, dude. Like, for real, like, I hated myself, I hated life, I hated everything. And now I love life, and not just because good things are happening, but I did the Olympia TV podcast the other day, and they mentioned when I placed 4th in 2020, they said that must have been the hardest time of your, like, that must have been the hardest thing to accept. I said, actually, the year before was the hardest. 2019, placing 2nd, was by far harder than placing 4th in 2020, because I came to that realization that, like, God, I trust you. Your plan is better than mine, and I'm accepting of whatever it is, that whatever path in life that you're leading me. I was so much more at peace, because I had a much more positive outlook after the 2020 Olympia rather than the 2019 Olympia. I was still trying to make things, work on my timeline and for my benefit, rather than for his glory and his plan. So I just, like I said, like, yes, things are going well for me now. Like, it's like, oh, it's easy for you to say, like, you just won Mr. Olympia and life is going great, you're about to have a baby. It's true, but I will say this too, there's challenges when you're on the mountaintop, just as much as there's challenges when you're in the valley. So when I was in the valley and I wasn't getting what I wanted and I felt life sucked, there's challenges but like, really, it's pretty easy to be aware of, like, okay, like, I'm not happy. Like, I'm going through some challenges right now. Like, I'm going through some struggle. It's pretty easy, pretty in your face. Now, when you're on the mountaintop and all these good things are happening, we're not really quite as aware of the challenges and, like, the worldly temptations. And that's kind of what I'm talking about now, like, being humbled or humbling yourself. I don't want to be humbled. I'd rather humble myself now and go, God, I'm grateful, I'm thankful, I hope this continues on this way, like, I want to serve you and whatever. So I'm thankful that I went through those struggles and I got humbled, because I don't ever want to go through that again. I don't want to be humbled again. And when I say be humbled, I don't mean lose the Mr. Olympia title. Like, that's more of a worldly thing. I'm talking about, like, getting an ego and getting ahead of yourself here, and feeling like letting it change who you are, rather than accepting of the good that has come in your life. Like, right? Like, rather than saying, like, God, thank you for this blessing. Like, I'm appreciative that, like, these good things are happening. It's like, well, yeah, now I'm the man. Like,
different mindset. It's like, instead of like, I did it, like, look at me,
like,
it's,
look what I did,
it's more,
look at me, I'm the champ, blah 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 blah.
It's like, now you're able to give praise through it.
Right. And yes, exactly. So glad that we're done with the workout, because if you would have stopped me like 30 minutes ago, I would have been a little upset.
Just basically
that was the last set of the day, man. Thank
take
you.
up like 30 minutes of the workout.